Sheldon graduated from University of Cincinnati undergrad, went to Wisconsin for his MBA, and then became a public accountant at Price Waterhouse, which is now known as PwC. He also was an assistant professor in accounting at Lake Erie College, our neighbor up the street, and he also spent some time as a tax accountant at Pete Marwick Mitchell. And so then he worked at a firm that was in a similar business to the one that he started called Spectrum Diversified Designs. And today we are going to focus our time and energy on Spectrum Diversified Designs. Did I miss anything in your bio that you think would be particularly germane to these students?
No, we've covered it.
We've nailed it, okay. So first thing we want to do, Sheldon, is, these are seniors mostly. I did find there was a few underclassmen here as well. Describe to them what Spectrum Diversified Designs does.
We're passing around a catalog now. We design, manufacture, distribute household products that organize different rooms. So it could be kitchen, bathroom, closet. It could be juvenile related, pet related. So anything that makes organization in the home easier. It has an aesthetic design, so it's a flair so that we can differentiate from what's in the mass market, which gives us an opportunity to sell at a higher price. So we look to the better stores within each channel. Am I getting?
No, that's perfect, yeah.
So for instance, in grocery, we would sell to Wegmans or Publix or H-E-B, which are high-end grocery stores. We sell the Container Store, which is opening here soon. We sell to Bed Bath & Beyond. We sold to Crate & Barrel. We also sell to people like Menards and Lowe's, but better goods, so more aesthetic, reasonably priced, addressing organization issues in the home.
And Sheldon, you're a Cleveland-based company. What made you decide to start this company or get into the business?
Well, I was working when I went to college, I had no direction. So I was a geography major for 3 weeks. I was a poli-sci major for 7. I was a history major for 5 quarters. And then I realized I would get out and not have a degree in anything that I could get a job. So I started taking business courses, and accounting seemed to be easy. So I ended up with a degree in accounting. From that, I didn't want to work when I graduated. I had a ponytail and a long, big mustache, and they wanted my hair cut and had to shave. And I said, well, I'll just go to grad school. So I hung out for another couple of years. And then I worked in public accounting, and I just found it incredibly boring. So eventually I had an offer to work for somebody that had started a small company. Worked there for 6 years. We increased the sales by probably 6 times and the profitability by about 20 times. And I got fired. So I didn't get along with the owner. I was running the business, and getting increases in either pay or bonus was very difficult. So basically I went into business for revenge. So I wanted to get back at the guy. So I wrote a business plan. I found investors, and I started this business. We've been in business for, I think this will be our 35th year in business.
How'd that conversation go with your wife when you got home that night you were fired and you just told her that, damn it, I'm going to start this business and start something and compete with these guys?
Yeah, it wasn't exactly that. I used to work about 80 hours a week, and we had 3 kids, 3 and under, and I got home about 4:15. So I got fired at 2:13 on November 21st, 1984. I was wearing blue jeans and a blue sweater with a white shirt.
This
Not
didn't
that I remember
impact
the
him
day.
at all. He didn't impact him at all.
That day is etched in my mind. And I got home about 4 o'clock, and I walked in the door. My wife looked at me and said, "Why are you home so early? Did you get fired?" And I said, "You better sit down." So I got up. I started working part-time for people, and then I took a job, and I realized I just couldn't work for people. So I wanted to do something on my own, and we really didn't have anything. We had a mortgage on a house, and I had a little money I'd saved up. So when I finished writing the business plan, I found people to invest, and I figured if I lost it all, I lost it all. And I could just start over. Because I had a degree in accounting, I figured I could always get a job.
So what were the first things you thought about when you were getting ready to start your company? What were, you obviously had a to-do list that was, umpteen long. What were the first things that you were really concerned about when you started the company?
Well, to raise money with experience only and no ideas, the key for me was to put together a plan that would give everybody a comfort level that they're willing to invest in the business. So my approach to anything I do, whether it's selling a new customer or finding a new supplier, is to give them comfort that what we'll do will benefit them, will be profitable for them, and will be successful for them. So my goal was to put together a business plan and everything that supported the business plan that would give potential investors comfort. So that was the key for me, is to figure out what I could put together and bring to the party that would make people comfortable investing in me and my business.
Did you promise a return to your investors?
Well, at the time, it was big. I did a 5-year cash flow and 3 years of financial statements, and it was self-evident that if we hit the metrics we were looking for, it would be a profitable business.
So at the end of your first year, what were your sales, if you don't mind saying?
Well, the first full year in business, we only shipped for 3 months. It took me 1.5 years before we had any product. So the first full year in business, we shipped about $86,000 and we lost about $300,000. And then the next year we did about $1.5 million. We were profitable, and we've been profitable ever since. But the business plan laid out basically a 2-year period of losses and negative cash flow. So again,
You were about on schedule, is what you're saying.
we were ahead of schedule.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were way ahead of schedule, which made everybody comfortable. And at that point, the investor had invested enough money that we could establish a line of credit with the bank. And at that point, then, it was meeting the requirements of the bank covenants, and then our forecasts. And I learned right away, because I was traveling for the business, the person that invested, he put together a forecast with the accounting firm we were using, which was where John Zalick, where he works now with John Zalick. They were a little optimistic, and I've always found it's better to be more pessimistic and overperform than to underperform. So we actually we moved on to a different bank from the bank we were originally with, because at that point they didn't have confidence in what we could do, because we didn't meet our forecasted numbers. We were profitable, but didn't meet the absolute forecast.
Sheldon, you started this company what year?
Well, I got fired in '84. I started writing the business plan then, and I didn't have financing until August of '85, where I quit the job I had taken, and we started shipping at the end of '86. So, however you want to pick it.
And you sold the majority of this company in 2016, or was it 15?
15, in November of 15. 2008, the recession hit, and our business dropped about 30%. We had been growing every year, and we had to retrench. And at that point, even before the recession hit, we could see the writing on the wall that business was slowing down. So we started introducing product at a lower price point, because we knew that consumers would retrench and not want to spend more, they'd want to spend less. So, what was the question?
Well, just when you started the company.
So what happened
and
was,
when you sold the
from
company.
2008 and 9, we were in a period of decline sales, and then by investing in product development and increasing our sales efforts, we doubled our business in 5 years, and then in 2015, we were up about 30%. When we decided that we would look to find investors. As I was getting older, I wanted to have a liquidity event which would help me in terms of my estate planning. And I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids, and I wanted to make sure that, God forbid if I passed away, that they wouldn't be burdened with a tax burden that would force them to sell the company in a situation where it wasn't a planned sale of the business. So I wanted to make sure we could do it as we wanted to on our terms, and we sold 80%, and I've retained 20%.
So I was part of helping you through that process. Are you comfortable sharing some of what that process was like, selling the company?
Well, if you're starting your own business and you're working your own business. So when I started the business, I was the sole employee, and you're working 80 to 100 hours every week, and every time something goes wrong, you're afraid you're going to be bankrupt and starting over again. So there was a big emotional attachment to it. So the first part is getting over the emotional attachment and looking at the business as a business entity and not necessarily as one of your children. And then from that point, when you can get your, wrap your brain around the fact that it's not your child, that it's a business, and it's there to provide for you and your family and your constituencies, which are your employees and your customer base. When you get to that point, it makes it a lot easier. So that was the important part, is to understand that it really wasn't part of me. It was an entity to provide for my family. Did that answer that?
Yeah, it did. I just, for the students, did your lifestyle change at all after you sold the company?
Well, it was easier to spend money, I can assure you of that. I did go out and get a nice car. But no, I mean, it's basically the same. To me, money's not the driver. What's always been a driver for me is to be successful and to live to my word. So if we promise people something, we live up to those expectations. So we've always paid our bills on time. We always deal equitably and honorably with our customers. If a customer comes to us and asks us for something that I don't think we can accomplish, we tell them, no, we can't do that, and we won't take the business. So the same thing with our vendor base. If they come to us and they offer us something we know will be a lost proposition for them, how long can they do business with us if they're losing money? So we try to make sure that everybody we deal with is done on a fair and equitable basis.
So one of the questions that they came up with is, have you ever turned down a customer? And I think that was a good lead-in. So have you ever turned down a customer?
Yeah, when I started the business years ago, we're probably in business about 10 years, and I went to visit a customer in New Jersey that had about 700 stores, and it was a very important customer for us to get. And by the time I got done with the negotiations with the buyer, I stood up in the meeting, I took out my wallet, I pulled out all my money and my credit cards, I threw it on his desk, and I said, here, keep this, it's easier and cheaper than selling to you, because we're just going to lose money. So, it broke the ice, and we ended up having a relationship and did sell them. But yeah, we won't sell to everybody. If it's not a profitable transaction, it's not worth doing.
And there's a lot of, talk about how difficult retail is. So talk about retail. You've been in it 30 years now. Talk about, what was it like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and then today?
Well, there's a lot of disruptive forces in the industry today, like Amazon and other people of that nature. So when I started in the business in Ohio, there were 5 or 6 department stores. Now there's Macy's, Dillard's, and Nordstrom's, I think. Mm-hmm. There were probably 30 or 40 home centers. There were 50 discount stores, so Zayres and Rinks and Ames and Hills and Bradley's and Caldor's and Target and Kmart and Walmart. And now you have Target, Walmart, and that's basically it for mass merchants. So it's consolidated, and then you have the internet, the Amazons, the Zulilis, and Wayfarers, which is really causing a lot of disruption in the industry. So what's happened is the changes are exponentially faster. And at my age, I really don't understand e-tailing. So we just had a discussion today with people that are significantly younger than I am about how we deal with the Amazons of the world and the Wayfarers, and how do you maintain pricing and integrity, which becomes a problem with competition, because a Bed Bath & Beyond doesn't want to see an item they're retailing for $10 retail for $5 on Amazon. And Amazon doesn't care. They have all these algorithms, and if somebody's 10 cents lower than they are, they lower it 10 cents below that, and it just keeps driving the price down. So yeah, it's much more dynamic than it was when I started.
One of the first meetings I had with Sheldon, he took me into his showroom and he showed me all of his products. And here's a guy that's made a very good living and created a company that his son's involved with now, and it does paper towel holders and towel racks that'll go on the back of doors in bathrooms. And you sold a lot of different products, but you also change your product line over time. And it's not radical changes, it's moderate changes. Can you talk about your design philosophy and what's for you over the years?
We don't own manufacturing facilities. We outsource everything. So when we started the business, I wanted to do everything in the United States, and we did that. And then what happened over time was competition became too great. So we started using factories in Mexico. And then the Mexican resources were not very reliable, so we started using China. And what we found is since you don't own a factory, the only thing you own is the design and the ability to bring product to market and the ability to service your customers. So we've always tried to differentiate, which gives us a leg up on competition. So we apply for design patents. So everything we design, we try to make sure it's unique so we can either have a design or utility patent. And that gives us the opportunity to protect the products we introduce. So we try to introduce between 60 to 100 new products every year. So we keep between 3 to 4 full-time industrial designers that work for us, and we try to develop 4 to 5 designs every week, which eventually, well, as we cull through those designs for different reasons they're not appropriate to bring to market, we'll come up with 80 to 100 new items a year. So new product introduction is critical because every product has a life cycle and a lifespan. So as long as you can keep driving new product, eventually it's replacing those products that are older that are no longer saleable.
One of the things you showed me was the gauge of steel and the gauge of metal that you use. You try and go for a thicker, stronger, more robust gauge of steel.
Yeah, what you find in manufacturing product, that you can develop a nicer product or a heavier gauge product with very little incremental cost. So we always try to over-engineer and over-design the product, so features and benefits and aesthetics and perceived value is a critical component to selling product.
What's been the high point in your career?
That I didn't fail? I don't really look at it that way. I mean, every year is a challenge. There's been years where we haven't been as successful, but I look at other things we did, maybe improving infrastructure, ability to communicate with customers as a highlight. So, I mean, to me, it's more important that you are successful in what you do and how you do it and how you bring it to market and how you maintain your integrity.
I think this question might have been written by one of the students, but how do you recruit employees, and what do you look for in an employee?
Well, as Mark mentioned, my son works for me, and now my daughter just started about, I don't know if you met her, about a year ago. She worked for Google for a number of years, and before that for Orbit. So she's come on board to do our internet business. And my son's now the president, I'm the CEO. When I would hire people, I looked for people with a sense of energy, people that were willing to go above and beyond. So above and beyond might be working 6 days a week, 10-hour days. People would come in on Saturdays and Sundays and do what it took.
So like public accounting, for instance.
Like public accounting. Yeah, when I worked in public accounting, our work weeks were 70 to 90 hours a week, every week, 52 weeks a year. It just never ended. So I guess that was my frame of reference, but I also started working when I was 14, working 30 hours a week after school, so I've always worked. But it's different nowadays. I hear a lot of work-life balance. I'm not a big work-life balance guy, so probably be better to talk to my son and my daughter.
How many rounds of golf did you get in last year?
A couple hundred.
Okay, so here's a guy that says he doesn't have good work-life balance. But
I'm retired. I'm not working that hard anymore. I still work. I mean, I play a lot of golf and I travel a lot, but every day, even if I'm not here, I'm putting in a couple hours. And then on weekends, I probably put in about 10 hours a weekend, easily.
How do you attract new customers?
It's a concerted sales effort. We're always trying to expand into different space. So if you've looked through the brochure there, you can see it's not highlighted, but we've just introduced some items that are pet related, and we've introduced some items that are juvenile related or tween related. So we've always tried to broaden the base of our customers, so we're selling different channels. So this year we'll be going after the PetSmarts and Pets R Us or whatever it is, and we're going to go after Land of Nod and PB Teens. So we're always trying to expand out because competition seems to bring everybody down to a reduced level of profitability. So we're always trying to innovate and find new areas.
So what motivates you? Obviously, you've done well enough. I'm not thinking you're worried about paying your mortgage this month. Just curious, what keeps you motivated?
Just to do a good job, make sure my kids are on track, My son now, he's young, he's 32. He's now the president of the company. I want to make sure that he'll be successful in his job, so I'm there for him when he needs it, and I'm also not there when he doesn't need it. So I'm trying to let him make decisions and fail on his own and, get a new awareness. One thing I found over the years, and it's a unusual dynamic working with your family, is that I've made a lot of mistakes and I've stepped on a lot of landmines. And it's hard to convey that to people that haven't worked as long, that these are the issues you need to be careful of, and this is where you can step on a landmine and lose a limb or lose your business.
Do you feel that they need to learn that on their own, or do you feel that you can give them the advice and, they'll be better off to avoid the mistake?
Yes.
So the answer's 50-50, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's my son, so I certainly don't want him to fail.
Yeah.
And it's the business, and you can't afford to have failures. So it's a combination of giving him enough rope to not hang himself, but to know that he's in a danger zone.
So what advice would you give to these students? The exact question is, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to these students that are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs?
Well, if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's a commitment. It's a change in your lifestyle. When I started my own business, we didn't have cell phones back then, or if we did, they didn't light up or anything. So I used to I had a watch that would light up. If I would go to a movie, I'd carry a pad of paper and my watch and a pen, and I would write notes throughout the movie. I mean, it's a 24/7 job. Kept a pad of paper at the nightstand next to me. I was always working, always on the phone. So if you truly want to be an entrepreneur and you want to start your own business, it's a commitment to the business. I mean, you can't fail. Especially when I started, I didn't have anything. So it wasn't as if my father said, here's 300 grand, son, go blow it if you want to. It was, if I blew it, I had 3 little kids and no way to feed them and nowhere to live. I mean, we had 1 car. We had a house nearby here on Princeton and South Euclid. And as I tell everybody, it was a 1.5 ring home. We had 2 phones. No matter where you were in the house, you were 1.5 rings from that phone. It was a small house, kids. I mean, it's a commitment. So you live the commitment, and it takes its toll. Some people are lucky. Some people are innovative and creative, like the guys at Google, or people that come up with these unique things, and they have a lot of venture financing behind them. I didn't have that luxury. So when I started the business, I started making less money than I did 3 years before, and it was a struggle. So I'm not sure if there's 3 things. It would be hard work, it would be commitment. I've always believed that honesty and integrity is a critical component in this, because when you're starting your business, you're an entrepreneur, your suppliers are critical to you. So you need to be honest and upfront with them. So if we had a hard time paying bills, I would call them and say, hey, we have this issue, we're going to make it right. And eventually we did. Same thing with customers. Never overpromise. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver.
Thank you. That was perfect. Now, I know we have some questions, and we're at the point now where we're going to flip this over to you. So who has our first question? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thanks again for coming.
Hi, you are.
My name is Ray Martin. I just wanted to know if you sell internationally or export at all.
We do. We sell to, at this point, and it's hard with the dollar because the dollar's gotten substantially stronger over the last year. We sell to most of South America, excluding Brazil and Argentina, which the barriers are high. We sell to Latin America. We sell to Mexico, Canada. It's unusual, but we sell items to India that we ship from China to here back to India. We sell to Korea goods that we ship from China to here back to Korea, and we sell to Japan, where we're shipping goods from China back here to Japan. We sell Australia direct from China. We do business in Germany, England, and maybe France. We sell to a division of TJ Maxx. And then we were selling Amazon in Europe, but the distributor went bankrupt, and we're not selling them anymore.
May I ask, Costa Rica and Latin America by any chance?
We do sell to Costa Rica.
And why do you, for those countries that you ship to U.S. and then back to them, what's the reason behind that?
Well, to make it economical, you need to ship a full container. So containers come in 20-foot, 40 cubic feet, and then there's a high cube. So if they can't do a full container, or we also work with probably, I'm guessing 15 to 20 factories. So to consolidate goods from different factories is very expensive. We monitor our costs. We're very good at monitoring costs, and that's one thing we've done. I have as Mark discussed, I have an undergraduate degree in accounting and an MBA. My son's got a master's in accounting. We have a controller and we have an assistant controller, so we have a lot of accountants. So we track all our costs. And we can tell you, we're not a large company. In our industry, we're considered a fairly large company, but overall, we're not that large. We cannot get a handle on what it costs to ship from the factories in China to the port and get these consolidated. So what you would think would run you $300-400 can run you $1,000. It actually sometimes costs us more to ship a less than a container load from the factory to the port than it does to ship a container load. So it becomes an issue, and when they have smaller quantities, they buy from us because we can't give them a price out of China.
So Australia has a higher demand, is that why they're different?
Well, the Australia, it's close and it's reasonable, and yeah, we were selling a home center called Bunnings, which is fairly large. It's the equivalent of the Home Depot of Australia. So in that case, it worked to our advantage to do that. And I guess we sell to New Zealand also.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who has the next question? Yes, sir.
What pushed you to get that idea, go from idea to action? Did it, because usually a lot of my college friends, we have a lot of great ideas that we would like to pursue, but it's always hard to start that action. Is it for you money, having some?
Well, the idea I had came from the job I had. So I spent 6 years running a company.
Okay.
And what happened was the company that I worked for was really in the gift and craft industry. And the owner of the company, he was fairly affluent, his father was very successful, happened to go over to Europe on vacation, and he would bring back goods that he found in European stores. And we said, well, we can make these here. So we started making these products here. The concept we're in, storage organization, upscale lifestyle living, was in its infancy then. So the advantage I had when I started the business was it was still in its infancy. So I could develop product, and it was fairly simple. So I understood the product and I understood the mechanics of business. So that made it easy for me to do that. Starting with a fresh new idea now, it'd be a much more difficult venture than what I went through. So ideas are great, but you really need to support it with statistics to back it up. And I had some statistics to back up my business plan because I'd been through it before. So I'm not sure that answers the question, but I think it was easier for me to do it. The hard part was raising the money and getting people to understand something that was in its infancy. Because the company that I was dismissed from was doing $8 million in sales. Sounds like a lot. But when Rubbermaid's doing $5 billion, and Jarden's doing $4 billion, and Newell's doing whatever, and Keurig is doing $1.5 billion, it's really not significant. So for me, the hard part was supporting the facts behind the business plan and then getting people to see the vision. And I think that's the critical part, is if you can put together the numbers, then you have to be able to express that idea and have people see the vision behind that plan. And then you can find investors.
And I would say try in an environment where failure is not too expensive. Go and pitch it to people that will be honest. Don't pitch it to your mom and your grandma because they love you. Go pitch it to people that will be more objective and answer you honestly. So you say, here's my idea, here's what I'm thinking. And they say, well, okay, I don't know if I'd pay what you're talking about for that product or service. And they give you feedback and they help you modify the idea and get it to the point where it does make sense. Very few entrepreneurs start a business and the original idea is the one that makes them the money on the end. It modifies over time, it morphs. So don't give up, just pivot. Try something slightly different.
Yeah, when we started the business, our initial plan was to sell department stores. And within a year, there was huge consolidation of department stores. We'd gone through a recessionary period, so Campo out of Canada was buying up department stores in the United States, and they were going bankrupt. And we said, now what do we do? So the idea was to take an upscale concept and try to take it to better mass merchants. So we took it to Target and Mervyn's and other upscale mass merchants at the time, and they bought into it because they wanted to differentiate from the two category killers, which were Kmart and Walmart. And you know, if you follow retail, you see what's happened to Kmart. So you've always got to be innovating. That's the key to this.
Next question? Yes, sir.
Was all your growth organic? Or did
It's all organic, and it's not through price increases. We probably went our first 20 years in business without raising prices. So we have raised prices probably 3 times, and of those items, we've raised prices probably 5 to 10% of the line. But competition drives pricing down, and fortunately, as we grow, our costs are declining because we can buy better.
So you're constantly changing then suppliers to get a better price, or are they?
Well, we're trying to get our suppliers to innovate better and using competition. So one thing has been our watchword, which is have everything dual sourced at a minimum. So it requires additional tooling investments, but you can play one side against the other if you have to.
How do you prevent knockoffs? How do you prevent your innovative designs from not showing up?
I've got some big friends that kick some ass. We try to patent everything, and
That doesn't generally stop.
it does in a lot of cases.
Really?
It's amazing how naive people are. I mean, if you get a design patent, it's on the design of the product. If you change the aesthetic somewhat, it's hard to defend that. So, you know, it's not confusingly similar, as they say. But people don't do that. So we've actually stopped. We had a major retailer with over 1,100 stores. We had them pull all the stuff off the shelves. Then they wanted to give all the goods to charity, and we said no, because they'll sell it, and that'll affect our brand. And then their supplier had to send all their goods to us. And this was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we were jeopardizing our relationship with the company. But we said to them, you can't do this. You know better than that. Done business with you for 20 years. So we spend over $100,000 a year on intellectual property rights. They actually had an article in the Cleveland Plain Dealer a couple years ago, it was about 3 years ago. We had applied for and received more patents. We were in the top 10 in the metropolitan Cleveland area, ahead of people like the Cleveland Clinic and Eaton. I mean, it was astounding. And the
Just
editor,
behind Nottinghamsburg.
we were ahead of Nottinghamsburg.
Really?
Yeah. And the editor called up and he got me on the phone and he said, "What do you guys do?" He said, "We want to write an article about you." I said, No, we make a bunch of garbage. So we make paper towel holders and hooks. I said, "These are people that create stuff that help people's lives." He said, "No, but it's so interesting." So, you know, we were in the Plain Dealer. They had an article about all these people, and there was a small section on us and how we innovate, and innovation is the key to success. So does it help us? In some cases, it does. People know that if they want to now copy our goods, some people know they have to change it. And then what we use, you know, in our sales pitches, we're the innovators, we're the designers. Is this as aesthetically pleasing as what we have? Is the quality the same? In some cases, the argument works. Some cases, it doesn't work. But, you know, you do what you can do.
We have a question over here.
So to follow up on Phil's question, how do you police it? And with companies like Alibaba and, I mean, it just seems like there's just so much stuff in the world. And
On Amazon, we actually go through and look. We have people that go through and look for knockoffs. And Amazon is the absolute worst. We have people that are using our name. We can stop them, I guess, if it's a copyright issue, but we have a hard time when they copy our product. And we just had a meeting today about FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. And this is where, to me, it's great. I have no idea what.
But your
anybody's talking
daughter's
about.
all over
My
this.
daughter's, and she now is working with the patent attorneys. Alibaba's different. I mean, there are people on Amazon that are selling our goods at below our cost. And we will order it, and they will take our money and never deliver the goods. And people don't realize that. The consumers out there. Now, eventually they go back to Amazon, and that then affects our brand, and it affects our, I guess people do reviews and stuff,
Yeah.
or they buy crap, and then that affects our reviews. So we're spending more and more time policing it. It's becoming a real problem. We just hired the other day a data analyst just to analyze data from Amazon. I would never think we would do that.
There's another story that I really want to get out. I'd like you to tell them about, can you talk a little about TJ Maxx and how they do kind of the one or two items? Have you been to TJ Maxx and seen how they have just one or two items? And you wonder, like, is this a closeout? Can you talk about that? Because this
Well,
was pretty interesting.
In the off-price apparel arena, the goal of Burlington, which used to be Burlington Coat, now it's Burlington Stores, Burlington, even Tuesday mornings now doing this, TJ Maxx, Ross, it's supposed to be a treasure hunt. That's how they describe it. So they will buy from us, let's say TJ Maxx, between TJ Maxx and Marshalls and Home Goods, 3,000 stores. And they'll buy 1,000 pieces. And they might put one or two pieces in a store. And they expect it to be gone in 2 days because the average shopper at a TJ Maxx store goes there once a week. I mean, that's more than grocery shopping. So, I mean, my wife goes to TJ Maxx and Marshalls probably 2 to 3 times a week. It's unbelievable. What do you do there? I mean, I can't go. I hate shopping, which is amazing because I own a company that sells consumer products and I hate to shop. But, I mean, that's their goal, is to get the person, the profile of that person, which is TJ Maxx is a fairly affluent female in her mid-20s to mid-40s, to go there once a week and find that bargain and come back for it. And you know what? Their pricing is outstanding compared to the regular specialty stores. It's amazing.
So you actually make a good margin on what you sell to TJ Maxx and Marshalls.
We make an okay margin. It's not the best margin, but yeah, they're reasonable. They don't. When you sell to retailers, what happens is there's a tendency between the home center industry, the grocery industry, and all the other industries. They have guidelines and rules you follow. So if you're late shipping it, it could be a 3% fine. If you put the shipping label not in the upper left-hand corner within an inch of the top of the box, that's a fine. At Walmart, you have to use 3-inch packing tape. Well, they don't make 3-inch packing tape. They use 2-inch packing tape. So we tape it twice. If the box weighs less than 2 pounds at Walmart, it won't flow, but they'll order stuff that's less than 2 pounds, flow through the distribution centers. So they fine you for everything. So they get all these people together, and they figure out the best practices to screw you. So what happens at a TJ Maxx and a Marshalls, they need you because they're buying at substantially discounted prices. So they don't do that to you. So it's a pleasure to sell them because you ship in an order and they receive it and they pay you. Whereas like we could ship Menards and Menards could say, well, our loading dock's too busy and they won't receive the goods in for 3 or 4 weeks. And then the truck lines fine us for drayage fees for the goods sitting there because they won't take them in.
So there's a lesson for you. I never knew that until I talked to Sheldon, and I always thought they bought like 1 or 2 items because that was the last 1 or 2. They plan it that way. You have a question back here. Your turn.
So my question is, from what I'm understanding, you sell it for less to TJ Maxx and Marshalls than you do to like Bed Bath and store like Bed Bath and Beyond.
Well, basically everything turns out the same. Everybody has different program elements.
Mm-hmm.
So at a Bed Bath and Beyond, they'll have advertising, rebates. They might have Key City money. They might have slotting allowances. So when you get done with all these deductions they take, you basically end up close to the same price.
Gotcha. And I know you said your competitive advantage is innovation with your product. Are there any other competitive advantages? Because I personally work at Bed Bath & Beyond, and when I was going through the book, I saw a lot of the items that we sell. And I see lots and lots and lots of similar items with little differentiation on the shelves there. So how do you set yourself apart from all the other companies that produce the same items?
We try not to fight on price. We try to fight on innovation. So as the designers are designing product, we talk about features and benefits. And I'm not sure what a great example would be.
The
but,
curling iron for the bathroom. You came up with the holders.
right, but that's more innovative than just similar item. But for instance, we make an over cabinet door basket. So it goes over your cabinet door. We make them in 3 sizes. And what we did with ours is the small size will fit cans where other people won't. They'll hit the top of the door. And then the middle size fits, let's say, saran wraps and tin foils. And then the larger size fits something else. So we actually did a study so that we can sell to the consumer and to the buyer. that this is an advantage over our competitors because they don't look at these issues. So if we're doing something that mounts into the wall, we might try to do it on 16-inch centers for studs, whereas other people may not look at that because you want to mount something in the wall on a stud. So we try to innovate with features and benefits. We try to innovate with finish. We try to innovate with packaging. So there's a lot of subtle things, and the hardest part is communication. So like I look at a Bed Bath & Beyond and I look at our line and we should be doing 10 times more business than we are. But how do you get the buyer to agree with that?
That's what I was going to ask. How do you communicate your innovations and the flexibility of your products to your consumers? Because as far as you know, the retailer is just putting it out on the shelf and not.
We try to do it with the packaging, and we try to do it. It's hard to communicate a message. As I have these discussions with our graphic design staff, is when somebody walks by your product, you have about 2.5 seconds to capture their attention. And how do you communicate that to them? So, we have brands within our, or we have, I guess you call it brands within our collections of product. So we have one collection at Bed Bath, which is Euro. It's a European design, simple, clean, functional, heavy duty. And the graphics people want to play up Euro. And I always say to them, people don't come to a store to buy a Euro. They come to the store to buy a paper towel holder, and the brand is Euro. So what you're trying to do is communicate as much as you can on the packaging. And it's not easy, especially we're not Procter & Gamble. So we don't have a $20 billion in sales to support the data that they accumulate and the focus groups they can do and the studies they can do and the advertising agencies they can go to. So we try to do it through our own internal focus groups and the skill set of the people. And what I've found is a lot of smaller companies can innovate and react quicker than the larger companies.
But I know Simple Human does a great job with the boxes and through their items.
They're
Do you
also
try
at a
to compete with them?
Well, they're at a substantially higher price point than we are.
One of the things we've seen some innovative customers do is use YouTube videos and produce them in-house. And I know you do a lot for the internet. I know you have a photo studio where you take pictures of all your products when you put them on the internet. And we've seen clients actually just say, we're getting all these 800 calls. People don't know how to use our products. Let's get someone that really understands the product, why it was put together, and tell the story. And they put a whole series of YouTube videos together, and they become sortable on the website. So people that work at the store or people that are interested in buying a certain product at the store can spend time on social media as far as YouTube, and it cuts down on the number of 800 calls, and it gets the message out there in a big way. So we have seen some of that kind of creatively done.
Yeah, it's just hard at store level, especially if we sell items at retail for $1.99. It's hard to have a package that really tells a story on a $1.99 item.
Yeah.
So we leave it more to the immediate aesthetic look that people see. If that answers your question.
Thank you.
It's as good as I can do.
Okay, we have time for one final question. Is there anyone that hasn't asked a question that would like to ask a question? Okay, we're back for a repeat.
In and outside of our classroom, we hear a lot about the 80-20 rule. And where, for those that don't know, where 20% of your clients provide 80% of your revenue. May I ask who consists of your 20%?
I would say probably 85-15. So 15% of our customers are 85% of our sales.
And what are your biggest customers?
Biggest customers are Bed Bath, Container Store, Lowe's, Menards, the off-price, which is TJ's, Marshall's, Ross. Some of the grocers, we do the better grocers like Publix and Wegmans and H-E-B, Kroger, Amazon, Zulily, Wayfair. So in each channel, there's some that are substantially better than the rest. But it's amazing, whether it's inventory or whether it's customers, that 80-20 rule is pretty damn accurate.
Great question, by the way.
Yeah. No, that's right on, spot on.
How about a round of applause for Sheldon?
I hope I answered your questions. You never know. You know, every day that I do this, I think, I wish my dad was alive to help me.
Thank you. Can you stick around, or you have time, or?
Well, I can stick around for a little bit.